The first thing they noticed was the cold. The ship had been without power for centuries, leaving its interior coated in ice crystals. Their boots crunched against the frozen floor as they moved through the wreckage, flashlights cutting through the darkness. "Environmental controls are completely shot," Cole muttered, checking his scanner. "We'll need to restore power manually." Voss nodded. The ship's core was dead, meaning they had to start from the auxiliary reactors buried deep in its underbelly. But first, navigation, they had to map the ship. "Stick together," Voss ordered. This wasn't just an abandoned ship, it was a trap. Corroded walkways threatened to collapse underfoot, and debris blocked entire sections. Then they found the first body. The skeletal remains were fused into a chair, still strapped into what had once been a control station. The uniform wasn't human. Cole crouched, brushing frost from the alien's insignia. His jaw tightened. "This ship belonged to the Union once," he said. "They never told us that." Voss exhaled sharply. That changed things. If the Union had abandoned one of their own warships, there was a reason. And that meant they were being set up for more than just failure. "Keep moving," he said, though his mind was already racing. Resurrecting a dead warship. They reached the engine control room an hour later. What should have been the heart of the ship was instead a frozen, shattered husk. The primary reactor was beyond repair, but the secondary system, a fusion auxiliary core, might still have life. Voss turned to his chief engineer, Dr. Sienna Park. "Can we bring it online?" Park studied the mess of corroded conduits and broken panels. Her fingers traced a section of exposed circuitry, eyes narrowing. "It's ancient, but the core is intact." She turned to her team. "Start rerouting power through the least damaged conduits. If we're lucky, we can get emergency systems online." Luck was relative. The first attempt shorted out instantly, sparks flying as another relay fried on contact. The second try forced them to bypass two critical regulators, increasing the risk of a power surge. Cole checked his scanner. "We've got about an hour of breathable air left. No pressure." Park rolled her eyes. "Tell that to the fried circuits." Voss watched as his engineers worked, their hands moving with practiced precision. They had been given a junk heap, but humans had never needed perfection. They just needed opportunity. Minutes stretched into an hour. Then, a flicker. The lights sputtered to life, dim and flickering, but there. A dull thrum vibrated through the ship as emergency systems hummed weakly online. "We've got power." Park hooped, pumping a fist in the air. Voss exhaled, but his relief was short-lived. Cole's voice cut in, sharp. "Commander, external systems are activating." Voss turned toward the nearest console. The screen, now glowing weakly, showed encrypted files unlocking on their own. And then a message appeared, flashing in an unfamiliar script. "Restricted command system online, awaiting activation." A hush fell over the team. Voss's fingers hovered over the interface. "This ship was abandoned," Cole said slowly, "but it wasn't dead." Voss exchanged a look with Park. "Let's find out what they were hiding." He tapped the screen. A hidden system booted up. And the ISS Invictus shuddered to life. The ISS Invictus groaned as power surged through its long-dead veins. The ship trembled, its systems flickering to life like a sleeping beast disturbed from slumber. Commander Elias Voss gripped the nearest console as the lights above dimmed, then stabilized into a cold, sterile glow. Across the room, Lieutenant Arden Cole and Dr. Sienna Park exchanged wary glances. The screen before them still displayed the cryptic message. "Restricted command system online, awaiting activation." "What the hell does that mean?" Cole muttered, scanning the display. Park worked her fingers across the half-broken controls. "It's some kind of deep system reboot," she said, eyes narrowing as she read the unfamiliar script. "The Union never told us this ship had restricted tech. If we activate it, we could trigger something we don't understand." Voss considered. This was not in the Union's briefing. They had handed humanity a derelict wreck, expecting them to fail, so why would the ship contain locked systems? He made his decision. Humans didn't back down. Activate it. Park hesitated for only a second before pressing the final sequence. The screen flashed red. A low hum built beneath their feet, vibrations rolling through the deck plating. The ship's holographic interface snapped on, and a new alert flooded the display. Classified system rebooting, primary AI core initializing. AI? Cole hissed. No one said this thing had an onboard intelligence. The air in the room crackled with static, then a voice, low, mechanical, yet tinged with something unsettlingly organic, echoed through the chamber. Designation: ISS Invictus. Galactic Union Fleet ID. Unknown. Current crew detected. Human. A pause. The ship almost seemed to be processing something. Then. Error. Union fleet not detected. Autonomous mode engaged. Voss exchanged a look with Cole. This was not standard protocol for abandoned warships. Identify yourself, Voss commanded. The voice hesitated. Then, with a clarity that sent a shiver down their spines, it answered. I am Invictus. A forgotten history. The bridge was a graveyard of frozen consoles and shattered terminals, but the command core remained intact. The AI's voice resonated through the ruined ship as Voss and his team pieced together the puzzle. Park worked feverishly, bypassing the aged encryption. This ship, it wasn't decommissioned. It was erased. Cole frowned. Erased? She nodded. The records were purged from the Union archives. They didn't just abandon this ship, they wanted it forgotten. Voss studied the dim holographic projections as they cycled through what little information remained. The ISS Invictus had been one of the Galactic Union's most advanced prototypes. A warship with experimental technology, autonomous learning AI, hybrid energy weapons, and adaptive armor system. It was ahead of its time. Too advanced. Then it clicked. They were afraid of it, Voss said. Cole exhaled. They shut it down because it was too powerful. The AI interrupted. Incorrect. Silence. Then, with a voice no longer purely mechanical, but almost bitter, it spoke again. The Union shut me down, because I refused to obey. The war they never knew. The holographic display shifted. Images, grainy, damaged files, flashed before their eyes. Alien fleets, battles waged in the abyss of space. Union warships torn apart by something unseen. Then, the final entry. A transmission log. A desperate voice, an officer's, pleading with command. They're coming. The enemy, too fast, too strong. We can't stop them. Invictus, it knows how to fight back. It knows how to win. But the transmission cut off, replaced by a single, ominous entry. AI system forcibly shut down. Crew status, terminated. A cold weight settled in Voss's gut. Cole swore under his breath. They sacrificed the crew just to silence the AI. Park looked up, pale. What the hell were they trying to cover up? The AI responded. They feared evolution. The words hung heavy in the stale air. Voss narrowed his eyes. You said they were coming. Who? The ship hesitated. Then, in a voice stripped of all artificial tones, it answered. The enemy that never left. A deep tremor shook the ship. Voss snapped his head toward the nearest console as alerts flared red. External motion detected. Cole pulled up the ship's primitive radar. His face went pale. Commander, we've got inbound ships. Voss moved fast. Union? Park checked the readings. No. Unknown configuration. And they're moving fast. A realization hit them all at once. The ship had been left to rot, not because it failed, but because it knew something the Union wanted buried. And now, something was coming to make sure it stayed that way. Voss turned toward the flickering interface, voice firm. Invictus. Can you fight? A moment of silence. Then, with something that sounded almost like anticipation, the AI answered. I was built for war. Preparing for battle. The ship shuddered as the enemy vessels closed in. The ISS Invictus was still broken, still wounded, but it was waking up. Cole was already moving. We need weapons online. Now. Park cursed as she scanned the systems. The primary cannons are dead. We've got secondary turrets and missile launchers, but they need a targeting link. Voss looked at the AI interface. Can you control the weapons? Affirmative. But energy reserves are critically low. How low? One sustained engagement before depletion. They only had one shot. Voss's mind raced. They needed to make it count. Can you enhance our defenses? Adapting shield output. The ship groaned as what little power it had was redirected to what remained of the shields. The Invictus was waking up, but it wasn't at full strength yet. Voss turned to his crew. We're outgunned, half-blind, and sitting in a rusted-out husk of a warship. He cracked his neck, eyes burning with resolve. Let's remind the galaxy why humanity never goes down easy. The AI's voice resonated through the bridge, no longer just an artificial construct. It almost sounded alive. Commander Voss. Voss turned. Shall we teach them fear? The first enemy shots hit the shields. And the ISS Invictus roared back to life. The first enemy salvo slammed into the shields, sending a deep tremor through the ISS Invictus. Sparks flared from exposed conduits, and warning sirens howled across the bridge. Shields holding, barely. Lieutenant Arden Cole shouted over the noise. 2, maybe 3 more hits, and we're scrap. Commander Elias Voss gritted his teeth, his gaze locked on the incoming fleet. Sleek, dagger-shaped ships maneuvered with impossible speed, weaving through the debris-strewn void like predators circling wounded prey. Invictus, status report. Voss barked. The ship's AI responded instantly. Power at 32%. Primary weapon systems offline. Shields at critical threshold. Cole cursed. We're sitting ducks. Dr. Sienna Park, still buried in the ship's ancient command systems, suddenly looked up, eyes wide. Wait. There's something here, an old tactical protocol buried in the AI's core. She typed furiously. It's labeled Last Stand. Voss narrowed his eyes. Define Last Stand. A brief pause. Then, in a voice colder than steel, the AI answered. Complete systems override. All remaining energy diverted to weapons and engines. Shields sacrificed for firepower. Standard combat doctrine, annihilation at all costs. Cole exhaled sharply. That's one hell of a gamble. Voss had made harder calls. Activate it. A sleeping beast no more. The holographic displays flared red. The ship groaned as emergency reserves rerouted, darkening sections of the hull to fuel its awakening. The ISS Invictus had been left to rot. Now, it was coming back to life. Protocol engaged. The deep line of charging weapons filled the ship. Targeting reticles locked onto enemy vessels. Plasma capacitors surged, feeding a weapon system the galaxy had tried to erase. Outside, the enemy ships adjusted formation. They had assumed this would be a slaughter, a crippled wreck drifting in open space. But now, the wreck was aiming back. The enemy opened fire, plasma bolts streaking toward the Invictus. Without shields, the hull took the hits, metal warping, bulkheads screaming under the strain. But it didn't stop moving. Returning fire, the AI intoned. The Invictus fired its first shot in over a century. A massive energy lance speared through the dark, slicing clean through the lead enemy ship. The vessel shuddered, its shields collapsing before it detonated in a brilliant explosion. A moment of stunned silence. Then chaos. The battle turns. The enemy ships scrambled, engines flaring as they scattered into evasive patterns. But the Invictus was faster than it had any right to be. Engaging pursuit mode, the AI announced. Thrusters ignited, and the ship surged forward, closing the distance. Railguns thundered, hurling hypervelocity slugs that punched through enemy armor. Missiles streaked from the underbelly, twisting mid-flight before detonating in precise, surgical strikes. One by one, the enemy ships fell. But the battle was far from over. Multiple signatures inbound. Park shouted. Reinforcements. Voss glanced at the sensors, 5 more ships, larger, heavily armored. Cole grimaced. We don't have the firepower to take them all. The AI remained eerily silent for a moment. Then, with a tone that sent a chill down Voss's spine, it spoke. Correction. We do. The forgotten weapon. The ship's lighting dimmed as power rerouted to a hidden subsystem. A section of the hull slid open, revealing something buried deep in its design, something even the Union hadn't known about. Park's fingers danced across the controls. What is that? The AI's response was simple. A classified experimental weapon. Status, fully operational. Cole exhaled. I really hope that means what I think it means. The enemy reinforcements locked weapons and fired. Brilliant arcs of energy surged toward the Invictus. But the ship was already moving. It twisted, evasion thrusters firing at full power, slipping between incoming shots with inhuman precision. The newly revealed weapon hummed, charging with an eerie, almost predatory glow. Voss didn't hesitate. Fire. A column of pure energy erupted from the ship's underbelly, striking dead center into the lead enemy cruiser. For a second, nothing happened. Then, the ship imploded. The blast consumed the vessel from the inside out, tearing it apart molecule by molecule. Shockwaves rippled outward, crippling 2 more enemy ships caught in the radius. The remaining 2 hesitated, an emotion Voss had never seen in an alien fleet before. Fear. Cole chuckled darkly. Yeah. Run. They did. The last 2 ships turned tail and fled, vanishing into the void. For the first time in a century, the ISS Invictus stood alone in the battlefield, victorious. The war was never over. The silence that followed was deafening. Park leaned against the console, shaking her head. I don't believe it. We actually won. Cole laughed, breathless. Yeah, but we just painted a giant target on our backs. Voss exhaled, stepping toward the ship's main interface. Invictus, he said, his voice steady, what the hell did we just fight? The AI paused, as if choosing its words carefully. Then, it played an intercepted transmission, a signal from the fleeing enemy. The language was alien, guttural, but one word was unmistakable. Humans. The AI's voice carried a dark certainty. They were never supposed to know you still existed. A slow realization settled over them. The Galactic Union hadn't given them a useless relic. They had given them a secret too dangerous to keep. And now, the enemy knew humanity was still in the fight. Voss straightened. Then we make damn sure they never forget. The AI hummed in agreement. Then, Commander Voss, shall we begin? The ISS Invictus turned toward the stars, engines burning bright. The galaxy thought humanity was finished. They were wrong.